Hi, and welcome to Cuisine Secrets with Julie. It's always fascinating to discover regional specialties when you travel to new countries, whether it be the architecture, local customs, or an iconic dish. Well, today we will be sharing a Portuguese pastry that will have you craving for more. We'll be right back.
How can you save time and money when you shop? Get into the habit of buying your store's store brands. You get the same quality as national brand and save at the cash register. No apps, no coupons, just money in your pocket. Give store brands a try and smile your way through the supermarket.
Welcome back. When I recently visited Portugal, I was struck by several things. The gorgeous walls of blue and white tiles, known as azulejos, incredible food and wine scene, and one particular treat that popped up absolutely everywhere for breakfast, brunch, dessert, the Pastel de Nata. So what exactly is a Pastel de Nata? Think of it as the love child of a croissant and a creme brulee. These lightly sweet egg custard filled tarts come in sizes ranging from a small bite to an entire dessert plate, with a crispy, buttery, flaky outside and creamy filling that's lightly browned on top. Each region of Portugal and each baker has their own ways of tweaking and topping the original, but the end result is always the same, a highly craveable and satisfying treat. The origin of this Portuguese favorite dates back over 300 years to Belém, located west of Lisbon. Our guest today, Joey Bautista, also known as Joey Bats, will share the fun backstory of how the Pastel de Nata was born. This popular pastry spread throughout Portugal and has practically been adopted as the national treat. Pastéis de Nata were always available at local Portuguese bakeries in regions of the US, but in recent years, with more and more Americans traveling to Portugal, Pastel de Nata has been showing up more frequently in cafes and in restaurants, but it's still a rarity. Let's go visit with Joey, who's on a mission to change this and share his love of Pastel de Nata with the masses. He's the son of Portuguese immigrants and runs two highly successful Portuguese cafes, one in New York City's trendy Lower East Side and the other in his hometown of Ludlow, Mass. Hey Joey, thank you so much for having us, and I've got to tell you, I absolutely love your cafe. It's like a little mini trip to Portugal.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am dying to know, how did you and your mom wind up opening two cafes focusing on this one iconic dish?
Well, it kind of happened like I was having lived here for several years now, and I wanted to create my own thing. And I said, what could I offer New York? And it was like Portuguese food. Mm-hmm. So being extremely familiar with Pastéis de Nata my entire life, all my friends, we've been eating them our whole lives. Mm-hmm. I was like, how do they not sell them here? It's crazy talk for a pastry that's kind of known all over the world, but for some reason not here. So I had my mom, I called her, she was in Portugal. I said, like, we're gonna start making natas and selling them at the fairs. And that's kind of how it started. And it wasn't, it wasn't easy at first, because I think there was a lot of, nobody really knew about Portugal 3 years ago. Now they do. Mm-hmm. And when you mention egg custard, unless you've had it, I think people are really like, it reminds me of like runny morning eggs.
Right.
So it was all about, I was venting with some friends, and I was like, it's basically creme brulee wrapped in a croissant. And once I started pitching it that way, people were like, I gotta have it. Mm-hmm. Then once they had it, I knew I'd have them locked.
Yeah, it's wonderful too, and I love that you have like Portuguese beers and wines. You're like giving everyone like a true taste of Portugal here.
Absolutely. The objective is to create what we have in Portugal as like a tasca, which is like a cafe mixed with beer and wine. Sometimes you don't even sit down. This is a stand-up. You have a couple savory items, a beer, espresso, glass of wine, and you're on with your night.
Love it. So much fun. Yeah. So I'm curious. I looked into it a little bit because I was fascinated, but I want to get your take on the history and the background of the Pastéis de Nata.
Right. So the original Pastel de Nata, or it's called Pastéis de Belém, was created in the Jerónimos Monastery in the Belém part of Lisbon, which is kind of like the Times Square of Lisbon, so a lot of tourists there. This was the early 1800s, but in 1834, the monastery shut down, and the monks that created the recipe, so they had been selling it across the street at the sugar refinery. Mm-hmm. They sold the recipe to the refinery. 3 years later, they opened what is still there today, since 1837, Fábrica de Pastéis de Belém. And they're selling like over 50,000 a day. It's madness.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. And it goes back to them needing to starch the nuns' habits with the egg whites, yes? So they have leftover yolks, and what are we going to do with that?
Exactly. They were using the yolks. I mean, sorry, the whites to starch their robes and things like that. Yes.
Very
It's a pretty crazy story. But
smart to pair with a sugar factory, right?
Absolutely.
That's
genius.
Yeah.
And now it's just it's a madhouse there. There's a line all day there.
I love it.
All day there.
Most of your customers, have they been to Portugal? Are they like familiar with the Pastel de Nata, or is this like a whole new taste experience for them?
It's been super exciting because when I first started selling these in market, Portugal, people weren't going to Portugal yet. It wasn't like as popular as it has been in the last couple of years.
Right.
So now people are walking by and recognizing the flag. They're like, Pastéis de Nata, I ate these all day long in Lisbon, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, and so it's been exciting to kind of be like an ambassador to the Portuguese cuisine in a way, where I get to introduce people not only to the Pastéis de Nata, a few other things we have here, but also talk a little bit about the history, which has been fantastic for me. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. It's so fun bringing like a piece of the world to other people and something that you love and something that's like near and dear to your heart and part of your background. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk taste, because one of the things I appreciated the most about natas was that they're lightly sweet, and you're getting that like crispy, flaky, buttery outside with the creamy filling, but it's not like a sugar bomb in your mouth. So for me, and what I would love to hear from you, what do you consider like the best nata, like the best tasting? What should people be looking for when they're trying natas out and about? Like what makes it really delicious?
Well, they're, in Lisbon, they stay pretty true to the original egg custard standard. You'll have a lot of bakeries here in the US will try like a lemon flavored, and there's some that add a little chocolate in there and things like that. But I think the most important factor to a nata is the flakiness on the outside. You'll have a lot of them that are chewy on the outside. That's a no-no.
Right.
They should always be flaky. In fact, if you went to the original, those edges are almost transparent. You can't even see, you can see like through them, and it's crispy. You should be able to squeeze a nata, and it should make a crunching sound every time. And I think that more commonly the custard is good, generally, but it's the outside that most people they don't get it right. And so, and I'm not going to claim to
nail good pastry.
exactly.
It really is. Exactly. Yeah. And definitely, we're looking for like that gorgeous like creme brulee, like browning of the sugar on top. That gives such amazing flavor. And
so it's funny. A lot of people come in and they see the display and they say, "Give me the one that's lighter." And I'm like, "You actually want that's darker,
right?
Because it's going to be crispier." So I have a little trick that I'll tell you is, I put always cinnamon first, then sugar after, and it lightens it up, and then nobody's intimidated by the dark color.
They're not thinking about it, Meanwhile, the browning is so great.
Exactly, because Portuguese people come in here, and they will tell me right away, I want it bem passado, or bem cozido means well done.
Right away. They're smart. They know what they're asking for, right? They know the deal. And does everyone top it with cinnamon and sugar? I didn't necessarily see that in Portugal.
So what you have in Portugal is you'll see both canisters on the table.
Okay.
So you have the option. The cinnamon is the most important, in my opinion, and the one that we do the most in Portugal. Like if you go to Belém, or if any of my friends from Lisbon will always a little cinnamon, right? Not necessarily sugar, but being an American and knowing how much we love sugar, I was like, let's put the sugar on there as well.
Right. Yeah, no, it's gorgeous too. I love the way you garnish it. So I'm curious, how hard are these to make at home? If people at home wanted to try to make them, are they difficult?
Oh man, I'll tell you.
You've been watching your mom make them.
I watch my mom make them. I really don't bake anything. I just know I love to eat, and I like to tell people that I'm really good at warming things up. But I think it's the outside edge is what takes the most work. It's the hardest to get right, to get that crispiness out of it. I mean, that would be a better question for my mom for sure. But
I know, I want to ask her now.
She's here on the weekends.
If she has any tips for us on how to nail the most delicious one.
And, I mean, most people coming in here, if they've met my mom, they're immediately asking for mom.
Aww.
So I'm like, I get no love here. I get no love. But no, she's amazing. And when you come in and she's here, she's usually always cooking something new up.
Yeah.
And she's giving it away to people. So she'll eat, but then she's just giving it, hey, you want to try some of this?
I love it. She's like a true mama. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
It's
Joey's
good.
mom's name is Isabel, by the way. And this is her recipe, and her love is all over these natas.
This should be kind of like the next donut I think of, or maybe the next croissant, macaroon, things like that.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I'm kind of, cupcakes have been around for long enough.
They're
Let's bring something new and fun. And and I love too, something I really appreciated, these I would call medium sized. I saw some in Portugal that were tiny little bites. They were perfect just to have with your coffee, or to have, as a greeting, or to put out after dinner. It's not going to set you over the top after this big amazing meal. Thank you so much for having us, Joey. This is fantastic. And I am sure you have made everybody at home really, really eager to get to try one of these delicious little bites on their own too.
No, thank you. It was great having you here, and I'm excited to put these in everybody's mouths as well.
Ching,
Ching,
ching.
ching.
Wow, we sure learned from Joey that these adorable egg custard tarts are not just delicious, but definitely seem to be the national treat of Portugal. And now they're making their way to the US. Let's recreate them right here in a simple way using things you can find at your local supermarket. So the first thing you're going to want to do is dust your workspace with a little bit of flour so the dough won't stick. We're going to need to roll it out, and we're going to be baking these in a muffin tin to get the perfect little tart size. So using store-bought puff pastry dough, you need to keep it well chilled. We're going to roll it out a little bit thinner because what we're looking for here is a nice crispy finish after it bakes. So by rolling it a little bit thinner than it comes from the package, you're gonna get that nice brown crispy result, which is what we're looking for. By the way, if you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a flat drinking glass or a water bottle too. Okay, next, we're gonna take a standard size muffin tin, and you wanna grease this with a little bit of butter just to give it extra crispiness, extra flavor, and to make sure they pop out easily. This recipe makes 18 pastries, so we're using this 12-cup muffin tin. You can just use a second one to make the 6 extras. Now you're gonna need a 4-inch circle cutter or a cookie cutter, but again, if you don't have one, you can use a small prep bowl or even a drinking glass that has a cutter around this size. Just cut a nice little circle, press it in to mold around the bottom and the sides. Once we've filled this up, it's important to put the dough back in the refrigerator to keep it really well chilled. When puff pastry dough is kept cold like that, it's going to bake up crisper and not like flat and heavy. The good thing is the puff pastry dough is going to puff up when it bakes, so you don't actually need to fuss with it too much when you put it in the muffin tin. You just need to press it a little bit into the sides and it'll even out as it bakes. Okay, to fill all 18 spots in your muffin tin, you might need to re-roll your pastry dough out a little bit, but don't worry, once they're all filled and pressed in, you're gonna pop them back in the refrigerator for a little while to chill while we make our delicious egg custard. Okay, the first step in making the custard is to simmer some sugar and water together into almost an infused simple syrup. And what we're putting in there to give it great flavor, it's gonna flavor the custards and the end result of the tart, is 1 cinnamon stick and a little bit of lemon peel. It's not gonna be a strong flavor, it's just to kind of scent the custard and give it that little extra flair. The next step, we are going to whisk together some flour and milk in a bowl, and that is gonna help thicken our custard when we cook it. Okay, once that's combined, we're gonna go ahead and make the rest of our custard. Next, we're gonna heat up a little bit of milk in a slightly larger saucepan. We're going to use this pot to actually par cook the custard. We add the warm milk to the flour and milk mixture. We're going to whisk that in, and then we add our infused cinnamon lemon sugar syrup to give it amazing flavor. Sugar is going to sweeten it, but it actually is also going to help with that beautiful browning that we're looking for on top when we're done. Now we return this mixture to the larger pot to simmer on the stove for a few minutes, just to kind of get things started with the thickening. Because what we're looking for in our end result of the custard is a gorgeous, thick, rich, luscious result. So now I'm gonna bring it back to the stovetop for 5 minutes. While that's cooking, you wanna continue to whisk it to make sure it doesn't clump up on you. Okay, now that our flour and milk and syrup mixture has simmered for a little bit, we're going to slowly whisk it into some beaten egg yolks. And we're going slow because this is warm and we do not want to turn this into scrambled eggs. So we just need to slowly add this in. Once it's all incorporated, we're going to add just a pinch of salt, not to make it salty, just to bring out all of the delicious flavors, and a little bit of vanilla extract. And now we are ready to fill our shells. So here's a little cooking tip for you guys too. I've transferred the custard mixture to a glass measuring cup. Anytime you're going to be pouring or filling shells, it's a lot easier and less messy to do this than using a ladle. So now we're gonna take our very well chilled muffin tin with the puff pastry in it and fill it up with the custard. You don't want to go all the way to the top because it will bubble over and make a big mess. You want to leave a little bit of a rim. Now that we've filled all 18, we're going to bake them in a 500-degree preheated oven for 15 minutes. But here's one last tip to make sure you get the best brown, crispy, flaky results, especially from the bottom of the pastry. I've put 2 baking pans in the oven to preheat at the 500 degrees. So when we place these on top, it's gonna get started cooking at the bottom right away, and we're gonna get amazing crispy brown results. So after they've baked, you're gonna let them cool for just a few minutes in the muffin tin and then unmold them with a butter knife or a small spatula. But as Joey said, they're best enjoyed warm. And what we're looking for, remember, we're going for this love child between croissant and creme brulee. So you wanna get that gorgeous brown flaky crust, and it's important to get a little bit of browning on top of each one as well. So depending on how your oven runs and the hot spots, if it's not browned on top, you can just pop these under the broiler while they're in the muffin tin for a minute or two to get that gorgeous creme brulee-like browning. Now again, as Joey said, they are best enjoyed warm and also topped with some confectioner's sugar and a little bit of cinnamon too, just to give them one last little boost of flavor, and it makes it look really pretty too. You can just use a small sifter like this. And there we have it, gorgeous, authentic Pastel de Nata from Portugal that you can make at home with supermarket ingredients and a muffin tin. Thank you so much for watching. So please be sure you subscribe below to our Store Brands USA YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.